I have really been looking forward to making this guide, mainly because of how much fun I had learning Magik and her rotations and combos. While I play a wide variety of heroes in this game, I have 17 Lord characters and counting. Some of them just provide a different kind of satisfaction when you play them well. Like, when I play Hela well, it feels good, sure, but it's also kind of boring at times. But when you pop off with Magik, it's a completely different experience, a different dopamine hit. Now, I'm going to break down her whole kit in today's guide for you so you can experience that same satisfaction. And I want you to pay attention, which I'm sure will be difficult since NetEase decided with this Magik skin that every time she takes a step forward with her left foot, her left butt cheek is going to transform into an 11-pound ham. That's twice per second. That's 1,320 pounds of ham a minute that you're going to see, and you're going to be looking respectfully. But let's get into it. I always like to start off my guides with a brief synopsis of the character's core gameplay loop. Here's how I'm going to describe Magik, okay? Think of her like a coiled spring, okay? Think of her as snapping back and forth between potential energy and then these sudden kinetic energy outbursts, and then we go right back to potential energy, okay? So we coil the spring up really tightly, and then we release it and we watch it blast outward in an explosion of just rapid movement, and then we coil it right back up so we can do it again. That is Magik. So ideally, we're going to be readying an outburst and then letting it go to unleash a whirlwind, a flurry of rapid attacks that results in a kill. And then we can either stay and fight or back off and wait just a couple of seconds for our cooldowns to reset so we can coil that spring back up and do it all over again. But Magik doesn't just start fights, okay? She ends them. There's a match in here where I end up with 49 KOs and 37 final hits, which is astronomical, okay? We don't just start fights, we finished 37 of them in a single match. The enemy team afterward was up in the game chat saying, holy crap, that Magik was a problem. So let's get you to that point where you can be a problem. So we'll hit all of her abilities one at a time, and then we'll weave them all back together after that. Because for Magik, it's really about like writing a full sentence with her abilities. You're weaving them together to make one definitive statement, right? So first up is her primary fire. This is her soul sword. It reaches 6.5 meters, so a very generous range for a melee weapon, right? It does 65 damage, but it drops by 50% if the enemy is at the edge of your reach, right? So the closer you are, the more damage you're going to do. It does great damage, but it swings very slowly. So that's why we need to teach you right up front, you got to mix in a melee animation cancel. Okay, so this is a really important part about using Magik well. So when I'm right up on targets, I'm going to swing the sword with my primary fire, and then as soon as it hits them, I'm going to cancel the animation and throw in a standard melee attack, which strikes with the pommel of the sword, okay? This will chunk enemies down much faster if you go swing melee, swing melee, swing melee, okay? So this needs to be a regular thing for you. I actually remapped melee to one of my mouse buttons on the left side of the mouse right next to my thumb. So this makes it a lot easier to do this over and over and over without reaching for the V key on the keyboard all the time, because I hate doing that. So that's actually basically that's it for our primary attacks. But the goal here is to weave this melee and pommel strike follow-up into our other combos. So we don't really just want to be swinging our sword out there with our primary fire bunch. If you're just standing on the point, swinging your sword around, you're probably playing Magik wrong. That's highly ineffective and inefficient. So let's move on to the rest of her kit. Next up is the dash ability, Umbral Incursion. So this is your E on mouse and keyboard. You dash forward up to 16 meters. If you collide with an enemy during the animation, you'll pop them up into the air and you'll hit them for 85 damage. Now, this is a massive part of your kit, so pay attention here. It has an 8-second cooldown, not too bad. You can use it to get away, or you can use it to close a gap, depending on what you need in the moment. But this is really how you queue up your combos to kill enemies. You'll see me use it to kill Jeffs and Rockets and enemies that are usually tough to finish off because they're so squirrely and they can get out of your combos. But it pops them up in the air, which allows you to get in some free follow-up damage before they can run away. But here's the important thing. This lunge can be weird to land on enemies, and it's because you don't dash to where your reticle is. That's the weird part. That can be really confusing. It's a bit of a mind thing that you have to sort of shift in your brain here. If they're right in front of you, it'll hit them. It's not a big deal. But if they're any distance away from you, you're going to need to put the reticle on their right shoulder. Okay? Why? Well, because your body is actually the thing that needs to hit them in your dash, not your sword. And the reticle shows you where your sword will go. And since the sword is on our right side, that means the sword is going to be the thing that goes to where the reticle is. So if we put the reticle on their right side, that means our body will be perfectly lined up to collide with them. That's absolutely crucial to know if you want to get your combos in for free kills. It's also going to change how frequently you can hit enemies who are flying. So definitely start putting the reticle just to the right of the target when you dash. Let's move on to the Magik Slash. This is your ranged attack. Okay, it's right click on mouse. If you tap it, you'll immediately throw out this air slash. It'll fly through the air. It'll deal 45 damage. But if you hold the input, you'll charge it up. At full charge, it deals double that for a full 90 damage. The cooldown is only 6 seconds, really short, so feel free to charge it up and just toss it into the crowd often. Okay, 90 damage is no joke. I often get a kill just by throwing it into the mix and seeing what it hits. And just like, hey, yeah, you got a kill, by the way. That's cool. It's also great for finishing off targets who are trying to escape or trying to fly away. But here's where we start tying everything together. Check this out. If we tap the Magik Slash and we throw that air slash out, then we do the Umbral Incursion dash into the enemy, pop them up in the air. And then we do one primary sword swing attack and an animation cancel into a pommel strike. Look at their health. We leave any squishy target just barely alive. So again, that is air slash, dash, sword swing, melee cancel. And they're barely hanging on, okay? But here's the thing. If you charge up that air slash for even just 1 second before you let it go, this combo kills any squishy. So charge it up just a little, or even the full amount, release it, dash forward, sword attack, melee cancel, and they're dead. You'll see this combo a lot in the gameplay. I'll do it all the freaking time. It's literally a free kill. Remember that coiled spring analogy? This is what it looks like. We're charging up that air slash, right? That's coiling the spring. We're getting ready to unleash this torrent of attacks. I usually find an off angle to approach from. I locate a healer or a ranged duelist. Then I start charging up the air slash while I'm using the third-person camera perspective to peek around the corner. Then I step out. I unleash that fully charged air slash, dash into them, then sword attack, pommel strike, and they're cooked, okay? Coil the spring up, let it go for some huge kinetic energy, and then we reset the spring. This is why good magics always have so many final hits in the end screen. There's matches where I have the fewest KOs on my team, but I actually have the most final hits by a landslide. That's because Magik is a thirsty mother trucker. She finishes what she starts. Now, I have seen a lot of people say that they like to throw in the air slash at the end of the combo, okay? Sometimes, sure. Usually, no, you don't want to do that because it will not kill because you don't have time to charge it up. That's why I like to lead with the air slash. You release it and then immediately you hit E to dash forward, and that's going to fully kill a squishy character. So I always see people recommend this when because I do my research before I make these guides, just see what other people are saying, what advice they're giving, what things I might be missing out on. And I've seen a lot of people say finish with the air slash. So they're like dash first, pop them up, do the melee, pommel strike, air slash. But it's not going to kill a 250 HP enemy. So I don't see the value in this unless it's a situational thing, right? Maybe your cooldown wasn't ready for your air slash, but you already had your dash, and by the time you finish your combo, you've got the air slash. Sure, that makes sense. But if everything's cooled down, always start with a charged air slash attack. Okay, now we move on to another major part of her kit, her stepping discs. Obviously, as a melee character, the hardest part is always navigating the battlefield without taking a ton of ranged damage on your approaches and on your extractions. This is where the stepping discs come into play. Magik has 2 charges. They cool down very fast at just 6 seconds per charge. It's a short-range teleport that moves you several meters in the direction of your input. Obviously, this can be used to close the gap on an enemy, or to safely cross a space without getting hit. If, let's say, a Hawkeye is dialed in, he's got his bow drawn, he's just looking at the corner. If you want to use your teleport to get around the corner without just walking right into his crosshairs, you can do that. But you can also use it to change targets. In fact, you'll see me use it for that purpose a lot in the gameplay. If a healer, fighting a healer, they swap out for a tank, right? Tank steps into the gap to duel me instead. I'll actually teleport away from the tank and back onto the healer. But there's a few really important things about this teleport that you need to know. First is that you are completely immune to damage and CC abilities while teleporting. That means you can teleport right through Iron Man ultimates, right through Jeff ultimates, Doctor Strange's Eye of Agamotto, but truly mastering the teleport means learning how to use it to avoid other things, like, for example, the Spirit Rend from a Black Panther that will throw off his whole combo cadence. Or if you start attacking a Moon Knight and he puts an Onk straight on the floor right at his feet and he starts shooting it and backing away from it, right? Just teleport right over the Onk and then hit the Moon Knight. Or one of my favorite applications, wait for Spider-Man to attach a spider tracker onto you, okay? And then he will zip to you to queue up his combo. But as soon as he zips to the tracker, teleport right through him and pull a 180. He'll then be exposed and vulnerable to your dash attack, so you can start your own combo on him. The other thing you need to know is that you can follow up your teleport with one of two actions. You can do an Eldritch Whirl attack, which is a wide swinging attack that can hit multiple enemies and continue your forward momentum. Or you can spawn a little demon that will do a bunch of swipe attacks. Now the whirl is simple. I use it sometimes just for that free damage when I need it, but usually I'm gonna default to using the demon spawn. The potential damage output on this thing is insane, so let's talk about it for a second. The demon itself has good range. It will hit anything up to 6.5 meters in front of it, but it also has like a vertical range of 3 meters and a width of 3 meters as well. That's a ton of area that it can hit right there. So let's talk about applications. First, it's great for breaking constructs on the field. So if there's a penny nest, I'll teleport and then I will point the demon at the nest and it can completely break the nest, assuming the penny doesn't destroy it, right? I use it against Loki runes as well. So if I'm fighting a Loki, he puts the runes down, I'll do my quick teleport just to the other side of him, and I'll point the demon right at the runes, and I'll just keep attacking the Loki, knowing that it's going to be breaking the rune for me. Now, I don't have to sort of like waste time hitting the rune and then trying to hit the Loki, right? I also use it against Punishers in their turrets, right? Anything like that, it's good for. But it's also great against tanks, right? Teleport in, put the demon down, and now you're both dealing damage beside each other to the big tank at the same time. You can turn a 1v1 into a 2v1 by calling on the aid of your little demon minion. So if I do that, if I teleport through an enemy, I put the minion down to attack them, I'll often step to the side instead of standing right next to my minion because I don't want my minion to get destroyed. I'd prefer that if the enemy has to continue attacking me, that their attacks aren't also going to hit the minion too. So I want the minion to stay up. Does that make sense? But here's an important thing to note. The demon will aim wherever you look when you deploy it. Okay, so if you look up, it will tilt up and it will swipe into the air. If you look down, it will swipe down at the ground. So you never want to look at the floor after you teleport to put the demon down right at your feet. I see a lot of people do that, but if you do that, it will just swipe straight down at the floor. So you want to look in the direction that you want it to attack when you spawn it, okay? And you have a full 3 seconds after your teleport to drop this demon, so you don't need to rush it, right? Line it up, be intentional about where you place it. And now's the perfect time to talk about Magik's passive ability, Limbo's Might, okay? 30% of all damage you deal is given back to you as bonus health with a maximum of 150 health to bring us up to 400 HP. This is insane. This is what lets Magik stay in the fight and keep dishing out damage without going down. So remember that demon we spawned? As it's swiping at things, it's giving us health to keep us alive. But if we keep attacking while the demon is also attacking, hey, that's 2 sources of damage, and each of them are earning us extra hit points. That's a game changer. So make sure if you're like running away to leave that demon behind you so he can earn you some health while something is chasing you, right? So if you start an encounter by pouncing on a squishy and completely killing them with our super awesome combo, right? So let's say we start an encounter by finding a squishy enemy like a healer, we do the air slash, dash, melee attack, melee cancel with a pommel, they die. Guess what? We now have 333 hit points. We can step into our next fight with an 83 extra health, which is awesome. It's also frustrating for enemies because the burden is on them to, out damage your health gained. Okay? So when push comes to shove and you got to get the convoy over the line in overtime, Magik can be the real difference maker, as she is a constant flurry of wide sweeping damage that converts to health for herself to keep her in the fight. Now, before we get into her ultimate, I want to take all the pieces of her core ability set and talk just real quick about positioning and target prioritization, okay? So as Magik, your priority should be closing the gap on the back line, okay? Your primary goal is to kill healers and ranged duelists like Hawkeyes, Widows, Squirrel Girls. You really want to start with the healers if you can, okay? So if they're off the table, then that means you can use your passive ability to just outlast anyone else in a fight because healing's off the table for them, okay? It will also strengthen your front line by removing the pocket healing that the enemy front line is receiving. So you'll see me creep on the edges and use the third-person perspective to, just watch as the enemy team goes past. I'll watch the tanks go past. I'll watch the duelists go past me. And then when I see the healers follow, they're bringing up the back line, that's when I pounce. I charge up the air slash, and when I step out and let all hell break loose for a couple of short seconds, one of them goes down. It's insane burst damage, but it's useless if it doesn't actually net us a kill, right? Okay, so the goal is to quickly take one piece off the board for the enemy team. Then you can reset and get your cooldowns back and do it again, or you can go and join your front line in the main brawl and play the numbers game to your advantage. Alright, let's talk about her ultimate ability, the Dark Child. When you pop your ultimate, you will transform into a bigger form of Magik that basically just enhances her whole kit, okay? You've got all of your abilities that just do more damage, more or less, okay? Your primary attack does 3 chunks of damage per swing, dealing 105 damage. Her air slash attack now does 90 damage at base and 180 damage when fully charged. Her dash tackle ability does 135 damage, and it travels an extra 4 meters for a total of 20 meters. You can still do your stepping disc abilities too, like your Eldritch Whirl at 105 damage, covering a wide area and hitting multiple enemies. And you can spawn your demon, which is a better, beefier version of the normal one. Now, it's important to note that you aren't getting tankier, okay? This is very important. Don't just assume that you're some bullet sponge when you activate the Dark Child, because you're not. You're a glass cannon. You're still going to need to pick your targets wisely and try to be as squirrely as possible with your stepping discs. I like to start. I go into Dark Child, and then I start by using a fully charged air slash, and then I dash in with the incursion dash on the exact same target that I just hit with the air slash. That combo will immediately kill any squishy enemy. Then it's just a lot of Eldritch Whirls in the crowds, or against isolated targets, I use the primary attack, okay? That's basically how you use the Dark Child. And ideally, you want to use this in a situation where you're not in a 1v6, right? If the rest of your team goes down, you're the last one on point, and you think, I'll pop the Dark Child, don't freaking do it. You're going to get absolutely destroyed. She works best when you pop your ultimate in a situation where your teammates are there to help split some of the aggro. Because if you've got all the aggro, you're going to die really fast. And that's basically her whole kit, guys. She's the anchor for a team-up ability as well, by the way, that allows Black Panther to rewind like Tracer to a place that he previously was. But let's mention a few other key things before we close the video out. Let me just say that Magik does very well in a traditional team composition. If people are doing some weird team comp things like quad duelist or whatever, not so great. Don't recommend it. She really benefits from having a predictable battlefield where front lines are clashing and those clashes last for several seconds and space is being more or less held. It really frees her up to do what she does best without worrying about suddenly becoming the sole focus of 4 enemies. I also really like playing with a good Venom on my team or a good Captain America because they really help cause more chaos and confusion in the spaces where Magik is the most lethal. Flyers can be a problem, so can the Thing, okay? Flyers can be taken down by Magik, sure, you've seen me do it plenty in the gameplay here, but the really good ones know to keep their distance, and they can do splash damage or AoE damage on the off angles to prime you on your approaches. The Thing is also really good at interrupting Magik's combos by throwing off her cadence with his Yancey Street charge that can both knock you up in the air and keep you grounded after that without the ability to activate your dash or your stepping discs briefly, and then he'll just murder you in the meantime. So look out for those counters. And with that, I say, Thank you so much for tuning into the video today. If you enjoyed it, would you let me know by leaving a like on the video, as that is the best free way to support the content right here on YouTube, and consider subscribing for additional Marvel Rivals content. Be sure to leave a comment and let me know which hero you want me to cover next, and also drop a comment calculating just how many pounds of ham were spotted in this video from start to finish. Hey, be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.